Welcome to Oilers Nation Every Day with your hosts, Tyler and Liam.
Well, back-to-back losses. Leon Draisaitl's back home in Germany. At least it can't get any worse. Oh, what's that? Connor McDavid left practice early. Let's get into it with the lead. Anyways, welcome into Oilers Nation Every Day. It's a scrambly edition of the show. Just like Connor McDavid at practice, I might just, you know what? I think I'm good, Liam. I think I'm going to take the option on today.
Okay, I'm coming too.
Well, folks, it's pre-gaming with Boardsy again here, I guess. There they are. It's tough times now.
The earpieces really mess up our ability to execute that bit. Hey? Welcome into the show.
Your laptop.
Yeah.
It's a company laptop.
It's a company laptop. Well, welcome into Oilers Nation Every Day, everybody. We are live from the Sports Closet studio. Check them out online at sportscloset.ca. The show is a presentation of Bet365. Hockey fans, check out Bet365's 3-goal early payout. When your team goes up 3, you get paid. It's that simple. Download the app today. It must be 18 plus. Please play responsibly. Not a good weekend for the Edmonton Oilers.
Nope, to say the least. It was really bad, to be honest. I mean, like, to be fair, they did have a decent effort on Saturday. Obviously, it was a much more physical game. There's clearly been some kind of conversation between then and the Florida game, but at the end of the day, the best player on the Tampa Bay Lightning showed up and had 4 points. And I mean, I'm obviously not blaming Connor McDavid, but the Oilers' best player was -3 or whatever he was.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
And that's kind of why the Florida loss was even more frustrating, right? Because you kind of knew this very daunting matchup with Tampa Bay was around the corner. And if you want me to do like a weird positive spin zone on this thing, I mean, they found a way to make it close. 5 minutes to go in that game. It's a 1-goal hockey game. You're kind of sitting there being like, all right, give us a power play. Maybe the Oilers can try salvage this thing. But obviously it wasn't meant to be. Braden in the chat, the effort was there. The result was not. Yeah. Almost the reverse of that Florida game where, like, you could tell the Oilers came out with a little bit more jump and jam than they did against the Florida Panthers. We had, the fights and the scrums and all of that stuff. Like, they checked a lot of boxes that I wanted them to check in that Tampa Bay game. Mm-hmm. The result just wasn't there. And again, that is why, if you want me to give an overarching kind of view on this team and this season, effort needs to be there consistently. Control the one thing you can control, and that's work hard, play with a certain level of desperation and all that stuff. If you bring that same level of effort and give a shit against Florida that you did against Tampa Bay, maybe you win that Florida game, and then you lose the game to Tampa and go, hey, we're not going to win them all. We move on. Effort needs to be there consistently.
I think you look at this a lot differently if they just show effort, like you said, in both of those games. But you end another homestand on a negative point, and Rogers Place has been brutal for the Oilers this season. They're not being anybody at home anymore, and it's just disappointing. I think that a Saturday night game, like, it should be the two best teams. What should be the two best teams in the league when the schedule was made was Tampa Bay, who were legit cup contenders, and the Edmonton Oilers, who are game 72. Yeah, still trying to find who they are. And I know there's like a lot of layers to it of, like, there's obviously the McDavid comments, which we'll get to, but like, this team isn't the team we expected currently on paper either. They do have some injuries missing. Like, obviously, Yaremchuk played his first game, but I think
big
overall,
boy, eh?
Pardon?
He's a big boy.
He is a big boy. He's a good player. We'll see how long he sticks around for. Is he technically? They're all technically on emergency recalls, right? I think still. So we'll see. The Oilers do need some players to come back here soon, though, because their results did not go their way last night either.
Nope. For once, the out-of-town scoreboard didn't bail them out. Anaheim is starting to get to a point where I don't think you want to call that a commanding lead in the Pacific Division, but it's pretty close, Liam. The Ducks are now 5 points clear of you with a game in hand. That is, even if you win your head-to-head game, you're 3 back and they have a game in hand on you. First place in the Pacific over the last 4 days here, or 3 days we'll call it, has maybe slipped away from you, and now you're just trying to the goal now realistically is to catch Vegas.
And you'll have a great chance on Thursday. Do they play him twice, right?
Two more times this year, yeah.
And I mean, again, Vegas, big win for them last night against Dallas on the road.
Yeah.
But, again, like McDavid said, he's like, it's a pillow fight. And I think that might even be like a good thing to say.
Yeah.
Let's put it nicely.
Yeah, I agree with you on that front. Okay, like you kind of hinted at, there's a lot to get to, including some post-game comments from Connor McDavid that he clarified today. McDavid apparently came out to the media after leaving practice today as well and said he's fine, but there's a little bit more to that from Gene Principe that I want to get to. This is going to be a pretty loaded show. David Pagnotta is our guest. He'll swing by in about 23 minutes' time. And then Shane Fennessey from ScoreG Productions is going to join us.
This is a great one.
The
no pun intended. I did not mean to do that, but I will take full credit.
The Great Ones is the new documentary that group's putting together. They have done some amazing work, ScoreG, as a company over the last number of years, whether it's the Grant Fear story, Jordan Tutu, like on and on. Non-hockey ones, too.
We met him it was the first Cup final.
Yeah.
So they've been working on this for quite a while. It's not just something that's been thrown together overnight. There's been a lot of work put into this. I'm excited to see it.
So we'll give you guys a little bit of a reprieve from us just sitting here and yelling about the Oilers, which we'll do for the first hour. Don't worry about that. But let's get into our game recap. Game recaps here on the show are brought to you by Derek Dodge. This is the beginning of a new chapter for Derek Dodge as they are under new ownership, bringing a fresh approach, new energy, and a renewed focus on customer experience. And right now, they have an unbeatable deal. With every vehicle purchase, you will receive a trip for two to Las Vegas. Leave the lot with your new vehicle, and flights and accommodations for a trip for two to Las Vegas are on them. That is tough to beat. Derek Dodge. Visit them 6211 104th Street Northwest or at derekdodge.com. Wow.
Whoa.
Jeez, mistaken Mexican. $200 super chat to the Ben Stelter Foundation from our guy Mistaken Mexican. So thank you very much. Your generosity, always unbelievable. Not able to watch most of the show heading into an appointment. He drops in, and this was a story that we should probably give some love and some light to. Rest in peace to Jesse Pierce. Covers the Minnesota Wild for NHL.com. Just if you guys haven't seen the story, it's so tragic and sad. She was at home with her 3 kids and their dog. Husband was away on a business trip, and they all passed away in a house fire. You read everything, and Michael Russo wrote a very, very good tribute to his colleague out in Minnesota. Go read through anyone who had anything. Our guy Seth Tupel as well. Anyone who worked in that Minnesota community just had so many good things to say about Jesse. Really, really sad story from the weekend.
Yeah, but brutal news. You don't really know what to say about it, right? It's just... You gotta live your life, I guess. Like,
yeah, that's what
just
Hutt
awful.
said today too. He was like, "Man, like, don't take for granted a day of getting to talk hockey and all that stuff."
Yeah, it's just awful. Hopefully, her memory will live on in the Wild. There was a video today the Wild put out of just, I think it was Guerra and the coach, a couple of players talking as well, just like the impact she had, like being around the team. Like she was always a very happy person, and sometimes, I guess, would bring her kids into dressing room interviews and have to like hold her kid for like whatever reason. It's just like seemed like such a great person. It's just awful news.
Super sad, and obviously it's not easy to like move off of that in a conversation, but thank you Mistaken Mexican for giving us an opportunity to talk about that. He added in manifesting a speedy recovery for Connor McDavid. Hopefully he just got pulled into the principal's office with Lauren for his attitude postgame. Oilers are making the playoffs, hope will never die, and he adds in a cup year at the end. Before we'll do all the post-game stuff, but I want to go into this in some amount of a proper order, I think. Goddamn, Nikita Kucherov's really good at hockey.
Really good at hockey. What was that? 4 points he finished with, right? 1 on every single goal?
On every single goal but the empty netter. So an ethical 4-point performance from Nikita Kucherov, who, I mean, when he's on, man, like, maybe it's because he's in Tampa, although they've gone on deep playoff runs. And I don't think Nikita Kucherov is necessarily, like, underrated's not the right word I'm looking for.
I think he's underappreciated.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And again, maybe that's because he's in Tampa and he's not in a major Canadian market or in a New York or something like that. But like, I mean, sometimes we get a little bit too caught up in McKinnon versus McDavid. Like, hello, Nikita Kucherov is just once again doing the shit that Nikita Kucherov does. 4-point performance. His last 4 games, He was held to 1 point against Calgary. He had 4 points against Edmonton. He had 3 points against Vancouver. He had 5 points against Seattle. Liam, this guy has 13 points in his last 4 games.
Well, here's another fun fact for you. Not fun for Nikita Kucherov, but shows how good he's been. He started the season, his first 17 games, had 14 points. He wasn't even a point-per-game player. And now all of a sudden, we said the stat the other day, it's obviously add 4 more onto it or whatever it was, but he has 60 points since January 1st.
It was 63 points in 28 games going into it. So
he's now got 67 in how many games?
29.
It's incredible. Like, I really do think this guy should win the MVP. I really do. And people might argue McKinnon. I think it should be between McKinnon, Celebrini, and Kucherov.
I don't think McKinnon should be. I think it should come down to, it should be, I'd have Celebrini or Kucherov 1, the other one 2, probably Nate 3.
Well, I was going to say McKinnon's going to really determine Celebrini obviously making the playoffs or not. He still should get some first place votes, I think. I don't think there's a runaway by any means. No. And I think his season should be really respected. Obviously, the playoffs, people have their opinions on that, and that's fair enough. But I think just on Kucherov, like the other side of it too, in Tampa Bay, Braden Point's missed time. Sorelli's missed time. I know Sorelli's not like a big one.
Hedman basically hasn't played the whole year.
Their entire blue line is just like missed games this season. Hedman didn't even play the other day, right? And first off, this kind of goes to what McDavid was saying, is like that team is just so in sync and they can just kind of do what they need to do because they're such one unit. But it's led by Kucherov, who just quietly gets the job done every single game. And he's an incredible talent.
The Oilers did score first in this game as well, which kind of adds to the sting of the whole game when you give up 3 goals in the second period and just kind of squander it. Missing on the 5-on-3. Again, I'm not going to sit here and bitch and moan too much about a power play. That's one of the best power plays, or the best power play in the NHL, and once again, one of the best power plays in the history of the sport.
Yeah.
But you get that 5-on-3 opportunity, you don't score, and not only do you not score, you come out of it and Kucherov scores shorthanded, and it's like, oh man, you went from like, all right, tie this game, maybe even get 2, and like, is this a momentum? Oh my God, you're down 2 going into the intermission, and being down 2 going into the intermission against this Tampa team just feels insurmountable.
I feel like most teams right now, it's hard for the Oilers to get back on, to be honest, especially like just without Leon Draisaitl. His absence is so significant to this team and just like everything that he brings, and he's hard to replace. And then obviously when you allow one, they lost a special teams battle on Saturday, and allowing a shorthanded goal, it's just they said it when he got injured. He's just someone you don't replace. But I really felt like when they played, San Jose was the first game, right? Yeah, Nashville, he left early. They had something going, and I just feel like as much as it was a good effort on Saturday, power play is the place. It's just like you can't find a Leon Draisaitl from anywhere. That's why I kind of like Pods on it.
Because at least he was ripping, and he has that one-timer at Arsenal. Yeah.
Ovechkin made a career out of it. He's obviously a lot better than just a shot. Did you see that other stat of Ovechkin that Jay Fresh keeps pointing out?
Of his D-zone start?
He's not started the defensive zone.
Yeah.
But my favorite was that Mikhail Bodka went a full season and just did twice. It's like, the same category.
Yeah, if you haven't seen that stat for the people watching, Alex Ovechkin has gone the entire season without starting a shift in the D zone. So he's been on the ice for D zone faceoffs, but it's after he starts his shift. So there's been a couple times he's been like hung out there on an icing and like has to whatever.
Right.
But pretty crazy number there. Shout out Josh Samanski, first NHL goal.
Well, that's exactly how I thought it would happen.
I think he'll remember his second one when he eventually gets it more than his first.
Yeah, I think so too. He shoots. Just kidding. It's amazing they even determined it was his goal, to be honest. Like, it took him a while to actually announce in the arena, it seemed like too, that it was like, who actually scored this one? Not quite sure how ones like this end up going in the net. Like, obviously it's like a bit unexpected, but like, it's funny, like Vasilevsky was so good. Obviously he stopped McDavid as well. This with McDavid, 2 or 3 minutes left, whatever it was. And this is the one that squeaks through him. One you'll remember. You probably remember that one.
Yeah, that's fair. You will remember it. Just made
Look
weird.
at that.
1 goal, no shots for Josh Szymanski in that game. Man, what did that do to his shooting percentage on the year? Yeah, he's now shooting 50% through 14 games.
Oh, got to keep him in the lineup.
Pretty dialed in. I can't believe he only has 2 other shots in 14 games. I can't believe he's played 14 games. Where's the year gone?
He has 2 other so his shooting percentage should actually be So how many shots has he had?
2.
And he has a 50%.
Yeah, he scored 1 goal on 2 shots.
But that wasn't a shot.
That wasn't a shot. So he.
So he actually should have, because remember one of them got cleared off the goal line. Is what I'm trying to get to. Is like
that wouldn't have been a shot on net though, because the goalie never touched it.
This is insane. So this guy basically, obviously, he doesn't have 2 goals, but like should have had a goal.
Yeah.
Which would have been a shot, so that would have added to it. So it would have been 66%, I guess.
Yeah.
God, what a story. Olympian.
Yeah.
2-goal-ish goal scorer. So he's had one that should have definitely gone in, not saved by a goalie. One that he wasn't even looking at the net go in. Wow. They don't make him like that anywhere else but Germany.
Okay. I'm assuming most of you would have watched post game on the weekend. I really don't think we need to like dig into this hockey game all that much more.
The only thing I'll say is good fights.
Yeah,
I enjoyed that. The hit on hit on Hagel from Nurse and Podkolzin. Like to see that. I like the response as well from Sorelli. I think that's fair enough, and I'm not sure. But on that too, like some people, I don't think he knows. He hasn't read the game notes on pods. It's like I don't think anyone in Tampa Bay gives a shit.
No, they just stand. And Hagel talked about that after. He's like, we have a room of guys who, I'm paraphrasing, like, don't ask questions. We stick up for each other.
Just go for it. And I thought that was really good. I also liked that, obviously, there was a Holmberg and McDavid stuff. Holmberg dropped his gloves. There was no way that was going to happen. Bit of a nasty hit, but
I can't believe they didn't call that.
Yeah, I think that should have been a call and nothing more. But, because did Nurse get called on?
Yeah, you got to check the head.
Yeah, he did, yeah. Good response shortly after from Connor Murphy to be no. We're going to do something about this too.
Yeah.
I liked that. I did like that from the Oilers.
Yep, I agree. So Edmonton falls 5-2. Ingram was fine. Had to make some big saves. Yeah, I mean, you're not going to stop Nikita Kucherov on a point-blank breakaway.
Yeah.
Pretty wild.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no. I mean,
like, I'm just saying you don't blame Connor.
Yeah, no. I mean, again, another game where he allowed 4. Sure, you can make the argument he should have. Maybe you want another one saved, but at the end of the day, like he did it. He gave you a decent chance against Florida, and he did it again the other day. Like circumstances, I think, dictated it, but is what it is.
Yep. Okay, so let's go to after the game because I think that was a little bit more interesting for people, Liam.
I think people lost all interest in what actually happened on the ice.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. So do we have audio of Aaron? Like, what do we have behind the scenes that we can play?
I got Connor McDavid's full thing and Brashog kind of asking for the question. I also have the greatest, longest Knobby pause you've ever heard in an interview. And then, Liam, I have what you said.
Yeah, there was a video today put together by Bleed Oil Blue. He has 3 comments. One of them dates back to the Cup final, which we've referenced a couple of times. And then Draisaitl and McDavid just talking about Knoblauch in general.
Can we start with McDavid yesterday or Saturday? So let's run that, and then we'll give our thoughts on that, and then keep working from there.
He's playing great, obviously. Playing on a great team with a lot of great players over there. They got a great system. They're perfectly coached. They all know what they're doing. All over the ice, it's impressive. They're a great team.
Is that just a bunch of time doing the same things over and over again? Like, how do you guys get to that, to be that rehearsed, to have that system you can rely on and all those things? Where does that come from? How do you guys get there?
Yeah, well, that's a coaching question. You can ask Knobby that question. Obviously we've been playing together a long time, and we feel like we're somewhat rehearsed and organized, but not to their level.
Well, that wasn't.
That's not nothing, man.
No, it's definitely not nothing. This is now the 3rd time Draisaitl and McDavid have said something about Knoblauch since losing in the Cup final.
Yeah.
And what's that saying? Don't tell me it's raining when you're just pissing on me or whatever it is. You know that one? Yeah. Don't piss on me and tell me it's raining.
Okay.
Like, these guys are just screaming at us, being like, we have a coaching issue. And then these people are like, but it's fine. It's like, no, they're there. Like, they know what's going on. And I've mentioned this a while ago, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but like, my point is, like, this has clearly been a problem most of the season. Mm-hmm. And the Oilers are bad. They're not good. look like they give us a bit of a glimpse, and it's like, you beat Vegas, you beat Colorado. So, okay, we're looking pretty solid here. You do a decent effort against St. Louis, too. And there's obviously been other good games, but whenever they come home, it just completely erupts on them. And to me, that's when you should be at your biggest advantage. And I don't know, like we had the discussion on O&R of like what's the line for Knoblauch? It was over under playoff wins, essentially.
Yeah.
And we all give different answers. I think that the big underlying story is like he has to go. Like something significant has to change, and he's just a move that you would think it'd be the one. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of the way I answered it, and maybe we'll talk about this more with Pagnotta. I think there's a world where he stays and they don't win the cup, but it's a very small chance that the exact scenario plays out where they don't win a Stanley Cup and Knoblauch is still this team's head coach. And I think when you listen to that on Saturday from 97. Well, do we have the montage then? Let's do that. Then we'll do Knoblauch. This is every time Connor, 3 times Connor and Liam. Because again, let's see if there's a common theme here between these 3 things.
What's the difference in the series? I mean, obviously their forecheck was great. They tilted the rink. They were able to kind of stay on top of us all over the place. Never really able to generate any momentum up the ice. We kept trying the same thing over and over again, just banging our heads against the wall. So, credit to them.
Just like lollygag through games and try to get winning streaks going. And you need everybody. It starts with coaches, like everybody. Like you're never going to win if you have 4 or 5 guys going. And it starts at the top. We can be better. Our leaders can be better, and we'll take the break and regroup.
Do you think that stems? It's kind of ridiculous. It's playing great, obviously. Playing on a great team with a lot of great players over there. They got a great system. They're perfectly coached. They all know what they're doing. All over the ice, it's impressive.
Man, watching those Draisaitl ones back, we probably should have been talking about that. I know it led into the Olympic break, so we kind of just let them go a little bit, and I wasn't here for a couple of those shows, but like, holy shit, you hear that again, and you're like, he was very quick to say coaching. And you listen back to those McDavid ones, and you go, oh boy, he was very quick to talk about adjustments and systems and how they didn't do either of them very well. Yeah,
and they didn't mince their words. I think is the kind of my big takeaway from it too. And even they're unprompted. Like no one asked, like, is this a coaching issue? They just like brought it up themselves. And the fact it got brought up after Game 6 of the Cup final, where they got smoked. I think the final score was 6-1 or whatever, right? And I think even fans watching the game at the time were thinking, like, God, this is not good. Like, they just didn't seem like they deserved to be there at all. It seemed like a regular season game, dating back. And now you look at it and it's like, how is there no intensity in this team at all? And as much as, like, I know you, and I would agree with you on this, it's not up to the coach to get the players up for the game. But it does kind of get to a point where it's like, it feels like your players do also have the same, like whatever the coach is giving off, like the player probably rub off on the players and all have that same mentality, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I just don't know if Knoblauch has the mentality of what the Oilers need right now. And I understand he's been to 2 Cup finals and he has done a fantastic job with the Oilers. But also, I saw this other thing too. I forget who it was. Is it Blue Bulletin Board guy?
Blue Bullet Brad.
He had something the other day. Blue Bullet Brad. Holy moly. The Oilers are basically 500 in their last, 100 games or something like that.
They've still lost. They would have to win 4 games in a row to get to a point where they've won more than they've lost this year.
If you're a fan of this team, you have stopped. When the game has ended this season, you have been more disappointed than happy just based off wins and losses.
Yep.
That's nuts. We're in year 10, 11, whatever it is of Connor McDavid, however many of Draisaitl. We do not have many left, and I think this is something that people need to understand. Connor McDavid will just leave whenever he wants. And the fact he is openly in interviews being like, wow, look at what Tampa Bay are doing. And he just was there with John Cooper at the Olympics. Now he's like bragging about, not bragging, but like he's talking about how great of an organization this is. And then you also consider that Tampa Bay is a pretty ruthless organization who let Steven Stamkos walk 2 years ago. He will go. He will leave.
Tampa Bay.
I think that's the team if he was to leave. And I'm obviously overreacting a little bit. We'll see what actually happens there.
But I think that urgency is needed.
I think so too. But I have never felt like Connor McDavid was going to leave the Edmonton Oilers until this past weekend.
Really?
This is the only time I've ever felt like I'll say it, we're edging. We're edging closer. Hey, our feet are on the edge and no one's pushing.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's just so crazy.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like it's really hard to argue against everything you're saying and all of that. Let's do the Knoblauch comments now, because I think that's important to also show how he responded to all of this stuff, because McDavid spoke first, Knoblauch spoke next, and the reporters obviously asked him about this.
All-time longest pause you'll ever hear from Kris Knoblauch.
McDavid mentioned, just talking about the Lightning, how organized and rehearsed they are. They've been together a long time. Is that level of organization and rehearsal lacking overall in your game compared to what this team has done the past couple of years? Like, are you still trying to get back to that level?
I don't think so. I think the organization is fine. We've got a lot of new players right now with the injuries that we have. We've got some turnover. I think they had, obviously Hedman being out. They've been together for a long time, the group, and, our core guys have been together for a long time too. So, when things are going well, things are, it looks organized and they're playing well. So, but they got a lot of good players.
That feels, and we don't know what's in Kris Knoblauch's head. I don't know what's in Kris Knoblauch's head. We don't know what goes on behind the scenes here. That feels like a guy who in real time was processing, oh, he said what about me?
Yeah. That's
and like, even if it's been said privately, that feels a little bit like Kris Knoblauch going, oh, he said it out loud. Damn it.
A little bit, yeah. I definitely don't think he knew what McDavid had said when he was asked.
No.
Hence the 8-second pause. It's really hard to put into words, and that was the Knoblauch pause, not on purpose, but like, I just can't believe they're here. Like, the step back this team has taken, and did he mention injuries in that?
Yeah, he did. Because then he said they're missing Hedman too and all that.
But the one team you cannot talk about injuries with is the Tampa Bay Lightning. They have, what's that guy's name? Charles Daoust? He literally played in the ECHL 2 years ago.
Yeah, Darren Radish.
Darren Radish, who? Darren Radish was coached by Kris Knoblauch in Erie.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, Darren Radish legit might get some Norris votes. Not to win, but he might be in the conversation for fifth, whatever. And credit to him. But that's what culture is. Your team, your whole organization is beaten to one drum. And they are ready to go every single night. You can call anybody up and they know it. And I remember when the Oilers played him earlier in the year, there was a kid called, I think his name was Dominic James or something like that. He was a forward. He was a college free agent. And he basically been waiting to play. He might have even scored that game. He played well, whatever he did. And he looked better than half the Oilers players. And it's culture. And the Oilers currently do not have a culture. They've lost it. It disappeared. And they talk about how long this core has been here. And that's great. But maybe you need a bit of a shake-up in the core too. That's what I would say.
So when you call out the culture and we call out defensive zone structure and all those things, do you think it's fair or unfair? And I know Dave's here and we got to get to him. Fair or unfair to sit there and point the finger at Connor McDavid and say, why were you in the neutral zone when Nikita Kucherov made it 4-2? Why were you on the ice for all those goals against?
Yeah, I think it's fair. He's not innocent in all of this.
No.
But I do think that his play is somewhat turned into like frustration in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's it. And I don't think there's like someone.
He's more frustrated than he's ever been.
Yeah, and I don't think there's someone in the room who people would label as like a cancer.
Yeah.
I think the team is perfectly fine with like the personalities they have. I just think sometimes maybe you need a new voice. I don't think it's being disrupted, I guess.
Mm-hmm. We're going to get to Dave now. I want you to pull up, Aaron. I want to play just the Knoblauch pause again when we bring on Dave, because I want to get his thoughts on that. But Dave Pagnotta on our guest line is a presentation of your Prairie Toyota dealers. Looking to dominate off the ice as much as your team does on it? Check out the Toyota Tacoma. Its standard I-Force engine boasts an impressive towing capacity of up to 6,400 pounds. In fact, it's the most powerful Tacoma ever. So whether you're hauling gear to the rink or heading to an away game, you can tackle it with ease. The available panoramic multi-terrain view monitor gives you a live underfloor view to navigate even the toughest terrain with ease. When it's time to load up, the available power liftgate makes loading your gear in and out a cinch. Experience power, capability, and convenience with the Toyota Tacoma. You can see one on your screen. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Prairie Toyota dealer during Red Tag Days on from March through May as we bring in Dave Pagnotta from the fourth period for his weekly appearance on the show. We're not having a great time at Edmonton today, Dave.
No, it doesn't sound like it. Why? What happened?
Well, a little bit of a mess on all fronts on Saturday as the Oilers lose. Connor McDavid after the game waxing poetic about John Cooper. And some people took that as maybe a shot. He also told the media to go ask Knobber why the Oilers maybe can't play that way, which led to this pause afterwards. We'll play it, then get your thoughts on it.
McDavid mentioned, just talking about the Lightning, how organized and rehearsed they are. They've been together a long time. Is that level of organization and rehearsal lacking overall in your game compared to what this team has done the past couple of years? Like, are you still trying to get back to that level?
I don't think so. I think we're the organization.
Dave, you've been in a lot of scrums in your days. What is that coach speak for? An 8-second pause.
Well, trying to find the right words for it.
Yeah.
Okay. So even this is difficult to kind of describe. Probably unexpected. Was the first, and he was trying to compute everything, trying to take that all in with obviously the mentioning of what, the Lightning and Cooper and all that stuff. I think Connor's comments were twofold. I think one, it was just complimenting one hell of a coach in John Cooper, and whom obviously he has experience with Team Canada and what he's seen from an organizational perspective, organizing type of perspective, I should say, with Team Canada, both at Four Nations and, of course, over in Milan at the Olympics. And then at the same time, maybe a little bit frustrated with how things are going in his own room. Difficult for a coach to respond to something like that, given that, some of you guys touched on it, with how well Tampa played on Saturday. You can't just kind of pinpoint one area or one player or one part of the system that's flawed that allowed Tampa to really take over. It was a collective effort that resulted in Tampa just doing so well and taking advantage of missed opportunities and taking advantage of miscues and things like that from the other side. You're on a 5-on-3, and all of a sudden you're not really focused exactly on what's happening behind you. And Nikita Kucherov comes out of the box, and voila, you get a bit of a big oops there. So, look, a variety of different things kind of come into play and factor in. Clearly, the Oilers are not at the level of which they've anticipated being at, and not at the level that Connor anticipated this team being in or at. And some of that frustration is definitely kind of seeping through and has all season. And I've touched on this. I anticipated this year being a bit of a regression type season, a little bit of a blip, but regression in terms of the last couple of years. I didn't expect the entire division to regress and be a bit of a stinker, quite frankly, this season. But that's also, kind of played a bit of a factor. And I know he's acknowledged this as well. Connor has, and some of the other players have as well. A little bit fortunate for all the teams that the Pacific is as poor as it's been performance-wise and execution-wise this season. But it's also allowed the Oilers to stay in, and some of the other teams to stay in the race in the manner in which they are. I just kind of chalk this one up to more frustration than anything, and just kind of, seeping out a little bit, but also with the comment specifically on Cooper, just praising a guy that he's got a lot of admiration and respect for what's happened with his experience with Team Canada.
There's been a debate in our chat. It's on today, and it's been on for a few weeks, to be honest. Do you think this team is just underperforming because of the coaching staff, or do you think this team is put together poorly?
Both, quite frankly. A lot of people, and I get this a lot, and I don't want to use Toronto as a comparison, because I don't think it's fair, because I don't think it's a direct comparison at all. But with all the criticism of the Toronto Maple Leafs and their coaching staff and their performance this season, a big part of their basically where they're at is the lack of appropriate deployment of some of the guys. And I think some of the players will voice their complaints with respect to how they've been executed this season. And I think it's somewhat similar with the Edmonton Oilers in terms of how they've been deployed this season throughout certain parts, systematically, and then just throughout, 5-on-5 throughout the game as well. I think that's kind of part of it. And at the same time, I don't think the pieces are fully there. Like, again, we've talked about that. You can have the best player in the world, the best two players in the world. But this isn't the NBA, and you need more than three guys to be seriously successful. And I don't think the right pieces are there altogether for this team to be successful. And that's why I've maintained throughout the full season that, and I still do, that I expect their offseason to be very interesting. Because I think they recognize where the holes are, management does, just the ability to fill those holes appropriately that fits not only a better system, but to give Knoblauch and his staff the ability to improve the overall system, but because of improved talent or better talent overall that gels better together, that fits the structure better. I think they've recognized where those holes are, just the ability to fill them. They haven't been able to do that. And I think that's where a lot of those changes will take place in the offseason. So I'm not saying that it's exclusively the coaching staff, and I'm not saying it's exclusively management or Stan Bowman specifically for not providing them with the right pieces. I just think this was a bit of a transitional year. You're going to see some flaws throughout their game, and we've been seeing that. Maybe a little bit more than I anticipated, but we're still seeing it, obviously.
Sometimes we, fans, media, podcasters in a market will make too big of a deal of things because we're just too micro. And that's why we like having you on, because you can give us the bigger picture sort of view on this. But we played a montage like 5 minutes before you popped on, and it was McDavid after the Cup final saying we're just beating our head against a wall. And then Draisaitl before the Olympic break, immediately when asked about the team, goes, we got to be better, starts with the coaches. Now you have McDavid yesterday. And again, one of the questions we get asked a lot is is Knoblauch a dead man walking already? We got asked a good one on Oilersnation radio on Friday. What's the path to him keeping his job? And I kind of said, if they win the Stanley Cup winning coach, they persevered, he keeps his job. If they make the Cup final and lose, though, you probably sit there and say, hey, that's not, you need to change something up. Is it truly cup or bust, do you think, for Knoblauch to keep his job?
No, I don't. Because you're not winning the Cup this year. Sorry. But next year, let's see what happens in the summer. But no, I don't think so. But I think the Oilers have to however they approach this offseason, and look, it's entirely possible, they can win and whatnot. I'm not expecting it, but all that can change what I'm about to say. However they view their plan this offseason, I think it's going to be a combination of, how they view it and how they can execute it in terms of roster construction. And do they feel that Knoblauch, who signed an extension at the start of the season, is he going to be the right guy that can put all of these new pieces together for us? And I think because of what's coming in a couple of years, if you want to make that change now, I think it's justified now being after the season because of, I jumbled those words. If you want to make those, that type of change this offseason, I think it's justified because of what's coming up in 2 years, which is the expiration of Connor's contract. And really, you've got about 1 year to go to really, really get all of your ducks in a row. So in the grand scheme from another team, if this was another year or another team or whatever, then I go, look, you sign the guy to an extension. You got to give him the right pieces. This is a blip type of season. He'll be back next year. But because of Connor's contract status with 2 years left, effectively, you better frickin' win next year kind of situation. If you don't feel he's the guy, or if you have hesitancy in believing he's the guy, then you got to make that change now, being this offseason. Yeah. So that's why I believe that is a possibility. In normal circumstances, I would say no. But I think given the circumstances and given the cards that the Oilers have dealt themselves, I think everything is on the table after this season because of what's coming up in the not too distant future.
Mm-hmm. This is more of a I'm curious question, and I'm sure people are in the chat, then directly pointed on the Oilers. But everyone talks about Pete DeBoer. Why does Pete DeBoer not have a job in the NHL? Is it just because of the Olympics?
No, it's so Pete DeBoer. Well, first of all, he's still under contract with Dallas. So the way that contracts work with head coaches, you either match the money or beat it. Otherwise, the other team's on the hook for it, and there's some behind-the-scenes stuff that needs to be agreed upon as well. That's a small sidebar to the reasoning, because I think Pete DeBoer is going to want to go to an environment where he's the finishing piece as a head coach. Team's ready to win a cup, he's your guy to take him there. And the Oilers they haven't been looking right now. And other teams as well. Like, he was linked to LA. They were never under serious consideration right now for doing something. There was that Toronto talk earlier. He assured Craig Berube he was not in the running for that position as well. Leading me to believe in both scenarios, he's not interested in joining two clubs that aren't ready to win at the moment. But he's the kind of guy that the type of coach. He's as they said, he's the finisher. He's that last piece where you've got everything ready. You just need this guy to push you over the edge to go after a cup. The amount of conference finals he's been in the last 6-7 years prior to this one seasons is obviously impressive. And the visit to the cup final and the visits to the cup final and whatnot are great too. But my understanding is if he's going to join a club even after this season when his contract is officially up, and he's not under contract anymore, is going to be wanting to join a club that's right on the cusp.
Like Edmonton.
Perhaps.
Yeah. Okay. One more quote to throw your way to see if we're overreacting to this one. I'm walking around West Edmonton Mall on Saturday, as any good Edmontonian does on the weekend. And I see, Leon Draisaitl's in Germany. That's weird. Oh, wait, Leon Draisaitl's meeting with the same Dr. Austin Matthews was meeting with? Why? I thought he's supposed to be playing hockey again in a month. And then Leon Draisaitl tells Sky Sports, quote, "It will definitely take a few weeks. I hope we go far enough so I can help the team again." That doesn't sound like a guy who feels very confident he's back to start the playoffs. Was this quote maybe just mistranslated? Where are we at with this?
Everything I've been told is his timeline is still intact, and I think it's been reported over the weekend that's the case as well. But everything that I've been told and suggested is that he's still on track to be ready for the start of the playoffs. Maybe it was mistranslated or misconstrued, in translation. But nobody has suggested, even hinted that maybe he was on to, like, maybe he's right. Maybe he means, by the second round or the third round. No, nobody suggested that. He's supposed to be ready to go for the start of the season. So unless there is some type of significant derailment, which doesn't seem to be the case, then everybody expects him back for playoffs. The surgeon that he met, yes, same one as Austin Matthews, different reasons, and he specializes in a variety of different areas / injuries, not just one specific area. So he's the best, considered the best. So that's why, or one of the best. That's why athletes go over to see him from all different sports. But again, no indication at all that anything has changed with respect to his projected timeline, that being the start of the playoffs.
I wonder if also, too, by him saying, like, I hope the team can go far enough, is just like hockey's not huge in Germany, right?
Yeah,
Maybe it's just him trying to, simplify what he's actually trying to say and generalize it. I feel like it could be along that lines, too.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's the further we go, the more of an impact I can make, kind of thing. Like, maybe it's something along those lines. I don't think it really was geared towards anything that was, man, I hope we make the playoffs, A, or B, I hope we can go far so that I can get back on the ice. I don't think it was anything along those lines. I think it was more of, hey, I hope I can help and contribute more the further along we go. I think it was more geared towards something like that.
All right, one more.
The Greer stuff?
Yeah, I'll give it to you. Go, it's your thing.
So, obviously, I don't know if you've heard, Department of Player Safety under a bit of scrutiny recently. Something happened in Toronto,
Really?
and now it's a big thing. Yeah, maybe you've not answered any questions about it. Well, they didn't help themselves this weekend, it seemed like, either. So, obviously, Greer gets 3 games. We all think it should have been longer. To be honest, Zari's career could have been ended if it got any further. But my question is not necessarily, what did they get wrong here? How do they get better, and what is the expectation from the players? Because I think there's also got to be a side of this too of if the players want more suspensions, then you also can't be that upset in the same breath when say McDavid, he got cross-checked Garland a few years ago. What if all of a sudden that's 6 games because the NHL is just so harsh on this stuff now? What do you think the line is, I guess you could say?
Well, that's what everybody wants to figure out right now, because nobody knows where it is. And I think everybody, and this is the same with I use this as an analogy on NHL radio this morning. Everybody just wants to know where that line is, because everybody wants consistency. So it's the same on the ref side. You get into the playoffs. If you're calling a game this way for both sides, you better call it the full series, and you better call it for both sides. And if that's what it is, fine, we can adjust if we need to adjust, because at least we know where the playing field is. Like baseball strike zone. Forget about the new rule. But if you're calling high strikes, you call them on both sides. You call them the full 9 innings, or you call it the full series, whatever, for in the playoffs. Just so players can adjust and understand this is where things are at with this guy. All right, we got to just kind of tweak our game a tiny bit, mental note it, and then go from there, and everybody will be satisfied for the most part. The same thing here with on the suspension side and the reviews and everything from the Department of Player Safety. Just give us an understanding, give us a better idea as to what's being penalized, what the penalty parameters are, and what that bracket is time frame wise if suspensions are levied. Don't provide ambiguity. Don't do it case by case. Don't have it fluctuate, and we're on this roller coaster ride that we don't know what the hell it is when it ends. how high, how low, etc. Everybody just wants consistency across the board. And that's what we've lacked. And I think that's what a lot of players are concerned about. That's what a lot of GMs are concerned about. Just where is that line? And how do we just properly define it better? And that's what will be reviewed in the offseason. The league's going to look at this with the Department of Player Safety and try to have a better understanding as to how things need to be moving forward, and go from there. They feel they're satisfied. They're going to say that right now because they're not going to call out their own department. And then obviously, some people took exception to how the delivery of George Paros's message was, and the verbiage in which he used, where there was a little bit of arrogance to it. Throw that shit aside for now and let's just have that honest talk. And I think that's what a lot of people would appreciate as well, even though I understand what George was trying to say. Delivery was a little bit off in a lot of people's opinion. So regroup in the summer and then kind of go from there. But yeah, that's where we're at right now.
I just feel like even with this Greer one now, I think arrogance almost comes into play because, like, as an outsider, I sit there and go, a play where you can potentially break a guy's neck. He was clearly doing it out of frustration because he was already getting a penalty on the play. So he's doing and players do this. I was talking to Hutz today, like, all right, I'm going to the box. Make it worth my while. Shoves them, like, incredibly dirty. A guy who's gotten in trouble with the Department of Player Safety before is clearly making a play out of nothing but frustration. Has a guy in a vulnerable spot. Like, the list goes on and on and on. Also, if you want to buy into the narratives a little bit, the Panthers are out of the playoffs, and this is a great chance for the Department of Player Safety to send a message and say, hey, look, guys, that Panthers bias you all make fun of us about, we don't have it. 8 games for AJ Greer. Where I feel like they went with 3 is to almost cross their arms and be like, see, the way we do it is the way we do it. We're not going to buy into your silly narratives.
Well, the other factor here, and this is a tough line to toe for the NHLPA, is the player side will also, there's also a bit of a factor here. In terms of if you are trying to message send and you are trying to have, somebody as the example, well, is that necessarily fair to that player given how everybody else got off? And then the NHLPA, if you file, an appeal, will have to, jump in and weigh in and argue on that side. And that's tough because you're also like the other guy that he didn't just hurt a ref, he hurt another player. Yeah. So you got to toe that line too. But at the same time, you can't just have somebody as an example simply because you want the tone and the narrative of these suspensions to change. So that's a bit of a tricky, juggling act that you have to also factor in. And I think they do. Which is why 3 games, I thought 3, 4, or 5 would have been okay. He got the lower end of it, but I mean, I'm not as up in arms about it because of a few factors, one of which being that right now.
That's fair. Appreciate your time. I know we kept you long, but went to a lot of good spots, so thank you for popping on.
All good. See you, boys.
There you go. Dave Pagnotta, read his work on the 4th period. You can also find him on the Daily Faceoff YouTube. He joins DFO Live, joins The Sheet, does the DFO Rundown Insider Edition as well. So he's always buzzing around. Shout out to Mr. Pagnotta for popping on. Anything that he said there make you feel any differently about coaching and suspensions and Draisaitl and losing and the pillow fight division and on and on and on and on and on and on?
See the point. I'm going to get my Pete DeBoer jersey.
Yeah?
Hey, look, he only wants to go to a spot that's perfect. One that's so close to winning a Stanley Cup, and there's very few teams that haven't done it where he hasn't already been. I mean, look at teams like Pete DeBoer took 2 Cup finals. Like that New Jersey team shouldn't have even come close to a Cup final.
That was that was peak trap era hockey, neutral zone trap. 1-2-2 or whatever, 1-1-3. Like, it was disgusting hockey.
And I know, like, the idea of having good regular seasons and fun regular seasons doesn't really matter to people who want playoff wins, but maybe this team, I think this team is good enough on paper to get to Cup finals. This would easily be the most skilled team we would ever coach with talent, high-end talent, of course.
Yeah.
We'll see.
All right. Our next guest is an in-studio guest, Liam.
Wow.
How exciting. And it's brought to you. It's a presentation of GMC. It's Truck Month, and that means it's your opportunity to get into a 2026 GMC Sierra 1500 Pro Graphite Crew Cab at 0% financing for 72 months. That's how many years, Liam?
6.
Attaboy. You're getting a 2-inch factory lift with off-road suspension, a powerful 5.3-liter V8 engine, and a commanding presence that demands attention. Hurry in to get the Sierra 1500 Pro Graphite Crew Cab in person and take advantage of Truck Month before it ends. Our next guest, Shane Fennessey from ScoreG Productions. Appreciate you popping in. Good to see you again.
Hey, glad to be here. Thanks for having me. It's been a minute.
Yeah. What did you make of having to walk through our patio and this? And it's not for like any behind-the-scene reasons. Our door's broken, so that's the only way we can get in. Very nation-y of us.
Yeah, it feels very exclusive, very like secret club. I was expecting to have to do a knock on the door.
Yeah. Lots of stuff we want to get to with you. But the latest project you're working on, The Great Ones, I'm looking at the poster here. It's about, obviously, the Oilers dynasty in the 80s. Give me sort of like the elevator pitch of what this is about. Tell fans about it, all that stuff.
The 80s Oilers dynasty, it's basically the 5-part quintessential series. Everything from Wayne Gretzky coming to town till when the team wins their 5th cup in 1990.
I mean, great years, obviously, for Oilers fans.
The greatest, people might call it.
The great ones. So there's a lot of different areas I want to go to, and I know there's something that we want our YouTube chat to know, and we'll maybe save that for the end. Take me through the process that goes into this stuff. Like, how long has this been an idea? How long has it been something you've had your hands on? Like, all of that.
It's been an idea since The Last Dance came out in 2020.
Okay.
Remember COVID, everything's locked down. Netflix, ESPN, co-drops The Last Dance out of nowhere, and we're all just glued to our TV for 10 hours straight over however many weeks. So I started to think, like, why the hell haven't we done this with the Oilers? Like, they have the pedigree, they have the championship team, the Hall of Famers, the Cups, everything. And so, we just got to work. That was 6 years ago now. We got into production finally at the start of last year. So these projects don't typically take that long, but with all the partners, so we're partnered with the Oilers, we're partnered with Ryan Reynolds and his company, Maximum Effort. We've got to deal with the Hall of Fame. The NHL is sanctioning this. So it takes a lot to put all the pieces together.
So how deep have you been able to go into this? Like, it's everything. Does it cover everything, I guess?
It's everything. Yeah. It's no holds barred. I mean, we've done 55 interviews over the last less than a year. I was scrolling through my phone before coming on here, and I'm like, I don't even remember some of these interviews because there's so many in such a short amount of time. But I'd say the average length is about 2.5, 3 hours.
Per interview?
Per interview.
Wow.
And some as long as 7-8 hours. Like the big key players, like your Kevin Lowe's, your Glenn Sathers, your Peter Pocklingtons, all in that 6 to 8 hour range. To do the quick mental math, all of a sudden, like, it's a lot of footage. And, there's so many different storylines we have to look at. What's interesting? What do we have visual evidence that's interesting of that we can actually show? Like, a 9 out of 10 story might beat out a 10 out of 10 story if we have the footage to accompany it.
Yeah. So when you do these 7 to 8 hour interviews, how do you come up with all the questions? You know what I mean? Like, sometimes
really good directors.
10, 15 minutes.
You and I prep for 20-minute interviews, and we're like, oh, damn, this is hard.
Hopefully they ask us a question we can then think about.
We have an incredible director, Austin Andrews, and we've actually developed this setup, kind of different from what you guys do, but I'll actually sit in the chair and do the interviews. So I'll be asking the questions. The laptop that I have with the questions, I'm connected to Austin via Google Doc. So he's constantly rearranging, trimming, doing fact checking, like all those things. Like, we're talking stories 40 years ago. So some of these guys are like, no, it didn't happen that way. And then we'll pull up the news article or a quote from the book that they wrote. And we're like, you actually put it in your book. And they're like, would you look at that? I guess I did, right? And I mean, a lot of the questions cross over, but you just become so engrossed in the story that luckily Austin's got the faith in me to go off on tangents if I see a line of questioning that he hasn't thought of. Mm-hmm. So it's a really collaborative effort as anything like this is.
That's an interesting point you make about like making sure it's factual and what you hear from one guy is different from the next guy, or you find a news article and all of that stuff. And like, listen, if you were to put together a story on a dynasty that would maybe happen like right now when you wanted to do it 40 years from now, you might be able to find like archived stuff easier, social media, all that stuff, like more accounts of it. Has that been like a challenge for you guys, like digging back to the 80s to find like old newspapers and things like that?
It's probably our biggest challenge, to be honest with you. Part of the reason I'm here today.
Yes.
But great segue. Luckily we're partnered with the Oilers, and there's not any other NHL teams that could do this kind of story because they were trailblazers. They had people in the organization and outside recording things constantly. People in there with cameras because they recognized how special a dynasty it was going to be just with Wayne, and then you add in the 6 other Hall of Famers. So I don't know that there's even a team in the 90s that would have the kind of archive that the Oilers have from the 80s. And so that's so important, but we're casting such a wide net with this story. So as an example, 2 weeks ago, our team was just out at the Hockey Hall of Fame digging through their archives. Like they've got like 100-foot wall just filled with sticks, like milestone sticks, but they've also got film footage. They've got film stills. They've got everything you can imagine. So we're just digging through the archive trying to see like, hey, what's of use to this story? And we want to reach out to the fans as well. Like Edmonton was such an embracing city to the team back then. Like we all forget, like actually the Eskimos ran the town back in those days when the Oilers first started. And the Oilers had to make their way, but the community embraced them. And, you know, you could go to a restaurant and see these players hanging out. People wouldn't bother them like they do today. So we want to reach out to the fans and say like, what interesting or unique things you have from the 80s? Like, do you have film or photos of the team out and about in the town, restaurants, bars? Do you have any unique news stories that were recorded back in the day, or commercials? Like, I know a couple of the players did some real cheesy commercials that we found really bad versions of online, but we're always looking for the best versions possible.
So we put the email in our YouTube chat and pinned it up at the top.
Nice.
So if you're watching this and you got something, or you think your dad or an uncle, grandpa, grandma, mom, dad, whoever it is, if you think they might have something, the email's in there. For the podcast listeners, it's oilersdoc@gmail.com, and I'll run through the list again.
I'll put it in the pod description too.
Okay, perfect. Film footage of players just out and about, right? Like this isn't, you'll take stuff at the rink, you'll take stuff away from the rink. Like we're casting as wide of a net as we can here, correct?
Yeah, exactly. Like let us know what you have. Like we're going to narrow in on what's going to be useful to us. We'll figure out how to get it from you, whether it's coming to your house to scan it or you send it to us. Like we'll deal with that. But want to see the players in like non-traditional environments, right? So it could be out at Goose Looney's or Berry Tees or the Lingnan or any of those places. We don't need stuff like you and your parents with a player, because as special as you are to your parents, the rest of the world doesn't necessarily need that photo.
You said you found all that stuff at the Hall of Fame. That's what you were looking for? Any sign of Jack Hughes' puck? Was that?
I think it was being ingested at that time. Okay. And you guys wouldn't believe the ingestion process there.
Okay.
Like, do you want to hear it real quick?
Please, yes.
So they receive a piece of equipment, they document it, they photo match it, but then they throw it into a deep freeze for 24 hours to get rid of any types of bugs or anything that could be growing in it, mold. Then they pull it out onto a shelf. Then they put it back into the deep freeze for round 2, because those little bugs, those little eggs can survive one freeze. So they double freeze things, ingest it, and then this is a separate location from their Hockey Hall of Fame in downtown Toronto.
Right.
This is the archive in Etobicoke. So anytime it leaves that building and comes back, same process all over again.
Jeez, no wonder he's not getting it back. Imagine the bugs.
It is in the Indiana Jones archive.
Wow, I did not expect that. So when you've gone through this whole process, like, what is something that's maybe, you can give us a bit of spoiler for allowed, like come up that you like didn't expect to come up? Like, I'm sure there's been tons of stuff though.
Yeah, like it's so hard to like just think back, but the one thing that constantly sticks out to me is what a gangster Glenn Saylor was.
Oh,
like not only in his wheeling and dealing of like player personnel and like team staffing personnel, but like in the guys he hired behind the scenes to like look after the players when they're out and about, to be the first on scene if something happens. There's a famous guy named Bullet Bob, and I won't spoil too much, but Bullet Bob had the hands the size of freaking baseball gloves, and he was an ex something or other.
Yeah.
And he handled more than a couple of situations. So, I mean, the great thing about talking to these guys now, 40 years after the fact, none of them care anymore. They're like so happy to share these stories and rehash the things that maybe were just touched on in the newspapers, but really never followed up with. So we're really fortunate.
He's essentially that big Dom.
Yeah, from the Eagles. Yeah. You mentioned like having the crew around and all of that. fair or unfair way to describe this? Is this like the sequel to Boys on the Bus? Is it the more in-depth version of Boys on the Bus? Because I think everyone who's a fan of that era, and even like myself, I remember watching that. Like everyone remembers that.
Boys on the Bus. I mean, absolute trailblazing documentary. In fact, it's what inspired the producers of The Last Dance to follow MJ for that season. So kind of funny full circle moment that The Last Dance is what inspired us to do this. People forget, like, Boys on the Bus was a real quick snippet. It was 1985 to 1987. Because if you recall, they started shooting and then they lost to Calgary. You imagine the producer, Bob McEwen, they got private money to shoot it. And they're like, look, we just won the last 2 cups. We got the best players in the game. We're surely winning a 3rd cup in a row. Boom, Steve Smith's own goal. Not to say they lost the series because of that. Yes. We've all talked about that before. But then they got to go back and ask for more money and be like, okay, we're definitely going to win again next year. But we partnered with Bob McEwen, who, obviously produced that groundbreaking documentary to bring his footage into this story. But we cover a much wider time frame. Like we're talking 78 to 1990.
I know, Liam, you had written this down, so I'll take the conversation here. But like I saw just in those pictures you flashed up that it's you're not just sitting down with members of the Oilers. There's Yzerman and Ron McLean, and I'm sure you've just had some unbelievable conversations with like hockey lifers. But I think part of what makes that Oilers era, what gives it such a level of like mystique and aura, is that we don't get it anymore in hockey. Like in football, we got the Kansas City Chiefs and the Patriots, and there's been modern dynasties. Yeah. And in baseball, there's been the Dodgers. And like other sports, Golden State Warriors, basketball, other sports have had their legitimate like 1-3 in a row or been to all these finals. They've had their dynasties. Hockey hasn't had that. Like, yeah, Tampa won the 2 cups, but it's like, okay, one was a bubble year, and they waited a long time to get them, and they never got back. Florida, maybe if they keep going, but again, they're missing the playoffs this year. Pittsburgh with Sidney Crosby had back-to-backs. Okay, they never had the 3rd in a row. Like, what makes this so special and still, like, resonate with people is just the fact that these modern dynasties don't happen anymore in our sport.
No, you're absolutely right. And, maybe Chicago, like 3 and 5 years or something.
Probably the closest one, I would think.
But still, like when you think of dynasty, like it just, your brain doesn't automatically goes to those teams that you just mentioned. I mean, like, fortunately, unfortunately, those guys weren't making as much money as they probably should have been. Like there was a time when Grant Fuhr was making less than half of what Mike Liut on St. Louis was. If you're asking yourself, who is Mike Liut? You're not alone. Right? And then, Paul Coffey, Mark Messier, Glenn Anderson, like there was constant holdouts. Like, Peter Pocklington had a really interesting point on that. He's like, thinking back, it's kind of ironic because he was a big power of positive thinking guy. Mm-hmm. He was always getting like the Tony Robbins or whatever to come at the start of the season. Craig McTavish famously says, well, what if the other guys are being told the same thing as us? But he goes, look, it's kind of ironic that like we were constantly praising these guys as the best to ever play and feeding them this ego and energy. And then when it came to contract negotiations, it was like, yeah, but like, you haven't scored 100 points. You haven't then it was just chopping them down. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that, you constantly hear there was a little bit of animosity in that group amongst not management, but like, ownership, management, et cetera. And I think it's because you're giving people conflicting ideas. You're putting inspiration into their heart, and then you're telling them, actually, but we can't pay you like you're the best.
So it's interesting that you've got us now to that point and some of the animosity, because I would imagine when you're putting together a doc like this, where it's done under the premise of like, this was one of the greatest dynasties the sport's ever seen, there probably is a pull to be very positive, but you also need to dig up some of that other stuff. Like, is that kind of fun? Maybe isn't the right word, but like, is that almost kind of what drives you creatively to be like, all right, how can we like tell a full rounded story that isn't just like, we were the best and we won a lot?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to cover the adversity, whether it's on the ice or off the ice. And, we don't shy away from that with anyone. The funny thing about like this, like what we think is like hot button issues or, touchy subjects, DUIs or contract holdout, like digging back into the old newspapers, like it was front page stuff at the time. Like there was no punches held back then. Right. So it's not like it was, not talked about or anything. But for us, like we don't see ourselves as like scandalous gotcha filmmakers. Like we're not trying to make the most shocking thing out there. We're trying to make inspiring stories, and we're trying to like give people hope. And when we think of the Oilers, we don't want to like we just want to show stories that have resolution to them. And luckily all those stories did. If someone had a hard time or hard few years or whatever, they were either shipped out of town or they figured it out. Usually it worked out either way for them, because players who were, getting on it by the fans or management didn't want to stick around here. But, ultimately it's conflict, celebration, resolution, celebration.
Did you talk to any players on the current Oilers team just about their thoughts on it, I guess?
Yeah, we thought about it, but just with such a large interview list.
Right.
Like I said, we've already talked to 55 people, and we really wanted to incorporate not just the superstars, but like everyone up and down the lineup, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, talking to Kenny Linsman or, or Hunter or Lumley or even Lee Foglin is a great example. The guy who held the C for Wayne, right? And such a sweetheart. And it's important, like you mentioned, we talked to other rival players as well. It's important to talk to them because these guys are all still so humble to this day. Like every guy we talked to from that era mentions Lee Foglin as the guy that held up who taught them to be a pro. Yeah. Basically like professional, consummate, a leader. And, Lee won't say a single positive good thing about himself. Everyone else will. So you got to like triangulate. You got to talk to all these people and get them to pump each other's tires to a degree.
Film side of it now. How do you stay organized with all this? Like, okay, so you guys are sitting here. I know you have a big team and all that, but like, what, you already have picked up 120 hours of interviews or some crazy shit like that? It's like, how long is the process of deciding what goes in?
Well, we started shooting just under a year ago, but before we started shooting, there was probably a good 9 to 12 months of prep. So it's building out the storylines, the treatments, the outlines. It's building the interview list, and then you kind of, the result you get is a factor of what the reality of your production looks like, right? We can't talk to everyone. We're not able to get to everyone, or their schedules don't align. I mean, we did pretty good. Like, we did a 2-week road trip out east where we went Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, Boston, New York, Philly, Pittsburgh, Detroit, back to Toronto. 2-week trip, like getting all those East Coasters, right? And we've done a few big trips to California and BC, and luckily a lot of people are here in Edmonton. But it's just a lot of work and a really great team of people that all have their very like focused, dedicated roles that you can lean on and say, I don't need to follow up with this person. I know that they're going to get it done.
Mm-hmm. A question for you, like, you've done so many great stories now, and your guys' company's done some really great stuff. Sings in the Ring, unbelievable. Tutu, Coco, Grant Fear, all of those, and I'm sure I'm butchering part of the names of them too. For you personally, what kind of stories still like get your juices flowing? This one's got the Edmonton, the Oilers connection, but like, is there anything else out there? Like, do you have a white whale of a story that you're like, man, I would love to tackle that one day?
It's probably a little, just lack of, basically this is it. Like, I mean, it's a little anticlimactic, but like after this, not saying I'm retiring from filmmaking, but like, I can't think of a better project. Like, would love to have played in the NHL, was never good enough. So like, all right, let's tell the story of the greatest hockey dynasty, in my opinion. Right. What gets my juices going? Something new. Like, to be honest, after this one, I think I'm going to pack hockey away for a little bit, unless there's a great story that happens to fall in our lap. But, doing stuff in the music world, or doing stuff in, the acting world, or with comedians now, or even other sports. Like, we've done an MMA doc, we've done, Donovan Bailey's doc. Like, it's super fun just as a sports fan who really only follows hockey to get to learn in depth about other sports. So that's what I think is still left to done. But we're not sports either. Like, there's talks about doing something in the gaming world, or maybe something again in politics, because I did a short political doc a few years ago. Like, it's you just got to keep it fresh.
Do you have more than one thing? Like, when you talk about having all of this prep and everything that goes into this one, you're balancing other things too, though. Like, you're not just dialed into this right now. There's other things you're working on. Like, even in your own life, how do you stay so organized?
I work from home, so any problems at home I can see visually. So I don't escape to an office and forget. No, I mean, like, every project's in a different phase, so you kind of just like compartmentalize. And I know like modern psychologists and therapists don't like that word, but you have to a degree. You just know, okay, great ones we're in production or almost in post. A few others, like all post-production, premiere kind of, or like premiere phase or distribution. And then, you always want one you're shooting, one that's about to come out, and one you're planning to start shooting. because then you're never got a gap in your cycle.
Man, why would you want a break or some time off, right? Like,
well, I'm not saying we don't have time off. Like, I'm going to take a few weeks this year and go down to my sister's wedding in San Francisco, make a road trip out of it. But, as a producer, you get to kind of block out those periods and say, hey, team, I'll give you lots of heads up, but we're not shooting these 3 weeks. So, like, plan your holidays ahead.
Yeah. Okay, one more time. OilersDoc@gmail.com. Old TV recordings, VHS recordings of broadcasts, things like that, right?
Yeah, exactly. But like pre-1990.
Yeah.
Not
PVR'd Oilers versus Wild from 2020.
Exactly. The fifth cup or earlier. News segments, commercials, anything that demonstrates the vibe of Edmonton or the Oilers in the 80s. And we'll take a look at it.
Okay. And if people want to stay up to date on the great ones, what are the best ways to follow you guys?
Yeah, great question. You can follow my producing partner, Adam ScoreG, at ScoreG Media, I think it is, or Adam ScoreG, ADAMSCOR.
I'm putting the website in our YouTube chat too, so people can click there as well and see everything you guys
ScoreG Productions.co, FantasyFilms.com. Yeah, you'll find us from there. But trust us when we say once this thing is ready to premiere, you won't be able to miss it. You're going to get hit over the head with it.
Perfect. Well, appreciate you coming in and giving us some look behind the scenes on this. Do we have a rough ETA on when you think people...
2027.
2027.
That's as tight a timeline as I can give you.
Just at some point in 2027. All right. Thank you very much for popping in. This
Thanks
was
for
great.
having me. Yeah,
all
pleasure.
Right.
Thanks, guys.
One more time. There you go. The great ones. The dynasty that defined a decade. We're going to wrap up the show with a couple other things here in a little bit and do a little what's trending. But a big thank you to Shane for coming by in studio as well. It's always nice to have someone that's not Jay sitting in this chair.
Yeah, Jay. What a character. Yeah, I can't wait. I just love learning. I've been a history buff as of late. I got my beginners for World War II book.
Yeah.
I'm still into sports as well, so this will be good. I can't wait to watch this one.
All right. Quickly, let's do a little what's trending. It's what's happening in Edmonton. It's a presentation of River Cree Resort and Casino, your home for great performance. Musician and comedian Morgan J is bringing the Goofy Guy Tour to Edmonton on May 23rd. The 9 p.m. show already sold out. A second show has been added at 6 p.m. Catch his wild style of interactive auto-tune. Tickets are going fast. Like I said, 9 p.m. show sold out. They added the 6 p.m. show. Get your tickets to that at rivercreeresort.com. Must be 18 plus. Get your tickets for all of these amazing shows and events at the River Cree website or at the River Cree box office. River Cree Resort and Casino. Excitement. Bet on it. It's also a good time for me to remind everybody we have our nation draft coming, our nation playoff draft. Do we have the graphic for that? There it is. Nation playoff draft, all in support of Kids Sport. You can register your team now at nationgear.ca. This is going to be a night filled with good food, good drinks, competitive spirit. If you've never been a part of one of these nights, I was talking to the guys in Calgary. They've done it for a number of years, the Barn Burner crew. Legit, so much fun. Get your work involved, get your buddies involved. A team is $1,000. You'll be playing for a $2,500 grand prize, but when you buy that $1,000 team or table, it's you and 7 other people. So the table is for 8. You are all getting dinner. You're getting your first drink on the house as well. And then you're also getting your entry into the draft. It's going to be a lot of fun. Ryder, Lisa, myself, Liam, the whole Nation crew are going to be down there. And it is coming up on April 17th, the day after the regular season ends. Friday, April 17th at 6 p.m. at the River Cree Resort and Casino. I am very, very fired up for this event.
It'll be a fun one. I've not really ever been a part of something like this before. I've never been asked to host an event in person before. I can't wait to see what I get up to. What could I possibly do? Probably be very shy and let Tyler, Ryder, and Lisa talk a little bit more than I do.
What's trending is cleaning up a couple of quotes from around the Edmonton Oilers. Connor McDavid today. This from Ryan Rashog, top-notch Oilers reporter. Obviously. McDavid today regarding his post-game comments on Cooper and Draisaitl's comments before the Olympics. Quote, "We're not taking shots. It's just everybody can be better, myself included. Everybody can be better. It was more just complimentary of a great team in this league that came in and played a good game. Nothing more than that." Another one. "Not sure how it was taken that way. It wasn't supposed to be that way. But I understand, obviously. I understand how people could look at it that way. But it's not what I was intending to do at all." Those are two completely opposite things. But he's backpedaling a little bit, I think.
I mean, after a game, obviously everyone's
You're
hot.
heated,
Like your adrenaline's going. Sometimes you're gonna say some stuff you don't mean. But also, that's probably when you're the most honest.
Yeah.
At the same time, so I think he's trying to cover his steps a little bit. It's pretty obvious how it could be taken out of context if that's not what he intended, because that's exactly what he said. I believe what he said is what he meant. And someone else put in the chat before too. Sorry, your comment scrolled away, but just saying, like, listen to this tone of Knoblauch, that it was very out of character interview. So I'll have to go watch that one after. I think.
Well, here's the quote. Michael Menzies transcribed it on Twitter for us. When Knoblauch on McDavid and Dry mentioning coaching at times. Knoblauch says, quote, "When things are going well, there's usually very little criticism. When there's losing being had and you're not having the success that you anticipated, then yeah, everyone needs to look in the mirror." I think that's fair.
I think it's fair too. I also think you're the one steering the ship. And right now we're hitting those icebergs pretty hard.
Pretty routinely, I would add as well. Yep.
Yeah, routinely.
Couple other things. McDavid left practice, said after, quote, "Hips and groin stuff. All good."
Well, I have those injuries too when I try and get out of bed. Hips and groins.
Like McDavid doing a little bit of the both sides of the fence thing here. Just hips and groin stuff, all good. But there's hips and groin stuff, Connor. And you can understand why we, the fans, would not take that as good.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's a tough one to, like, especially after you just had the comments from Draisaitl. Like, things are blowing up pretty quick here. And I know this all happened at the end of last season, and it kind of ended up working out, I guess you could say. Depends how you want to define working out. I'm worried. I am worried. I am frightened, and I am worried.
But if they win tomorrow against Utah,
then we're back, baby. Me and Menzies tomorrow.
You and Menzies tomorrow, because I'm going to be on a plane to Las Vegas. I'll be on the show at some point. It'll just be a matter of like when we get to the hotel.
Do you guys land? Cool.
Yeah, we land tomorrow at, I think it's like 11. It might even be like 11:40 Vegas time.
I think it's 11:30 Vegas.
What time are they on now?
Pacific.
They're Pacific.
So that means 11:30 is 12:30 your time. So I'd say my hope is I can pop in somewhere from the airport at 1 o'clock for you. And then pre-post game tomorrow from Vegas. Aaron's obviously going to have you covered because he's coming down with us. Wednesday, I'll be doing the show from Vegas. Thursday, I'll be doing the show from Vegas. And then Friday, I think it'll be you and someone as well.
I'll just ask Michael.
Michael.
All
right. Then that's a wrap. Oh, just one game in the NHL tonight, hey?
Who forgot? I can't wait. It must be on national television. Surely it's not behind a paywall.
Ottawa and the Rangers. Sens Rangers.
Oh, that'll actually be Ottawa's worth
Sens
of
need
watch
to win,
right now. Yeah.
And 10-15 Chiefs trying to keep their season alive.
Oh yeah, how's that going?
We lost in a shootout.
In a playoffs.
Because the ice slot before us went long, and we were starting to play good. 5.5 minutes left, and they did the whole like, oh, we're out of time.
Oh, can I give a quick shout out?
Yep.
Shout out to the Lethbridge Golden Hawks on winning the U15 AAA Provincials this past weekend.
Okay.
They were the 6th seed in the South Division coming into the playoffs. They knocked off the 3rd seed, and then they would have knocked off, I guess, the 4th seed or the 5th seed, whatever it ended up being. It was an upset on that side, whatever it was. Made it to Provincials, beat Red Deer, who had lost 0 games all season. 0. They did not lose a game in the regular season. Beat everyone in the playoffs. They did lose to St. Albert in what was a meaningless game before. They had locked their spot in the final. And then the game ended 5-4 Lethbridge in overtime. Madden Deneau scored with 1.7 seconds left to tie the game and send it to overtime. And then Eastern Matadorsov, I think is how you say his name. Sorry if I probably did butcher that. Scored in overtime. So Lethbridge, they're 60. I believe they were the 60th ranked team in Western Canada, all Canada for their age group. And they had an unreal weekend. So shout out to those guys. St. Albert won bronze on the year too. So it was fun. It was fun provincials.
All right. That is a wrap on today's edition of the show, everybody. Enjoy your Monday. If you're coming along with us to Vegas, can't wait to see you. If, and I should say this one more time, if you or someone you know is going down to Vegas for the game and you do not have tickets left, we still have a couple of experience packages.
Oh, nice.
Which means you can come sit with us in our lower level deck lounge, is I think what they call it, Party Deck East. So $300 if you want to get into the game. That's $300 Canadian, by the way. So keep that in mind. And it's going to get you your food and beverages. It's all the concession foods, and then beer and wine is included in your ticket. So if you or someone you know is going down to Vegas and you don't have tickets to the game yet and you want to come with us, go nationgear.ca. You can come sit with us in our section. I think we only have 4 tickets left here. 5 left. 5 tickets left. So if you want to come watch the game with us in Vegas, have your food and drink paid for while you're there, you can still do so, nationgear.ca.
Nice.
Good. That is a wrap on today's edition of the show, everybody. Big shout out to Shane and Dave for popping in. We'll see you all later on in the week. Oil up. What's up, Nation citizens? If you enjoyed today's episode of Oilers Nation Every Day, make sure you hit the subscribe button here on our YouTube to not miss any of our content. We got you covered, from interviews, insight, analysis, everything you need to stay up to date on everything around the team. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a video.